In this tutorial we're gonna paint a glowing power weapon using glazing. We'll use 4 colors in total, starting with a mid-tone followed by a highlight color and then a darker shade. We begin with Ahriman Blue. Apply several thin layers across the blade until the color becomes smooth and even. Make sure each layer is completely dry before applying the next one. For my power weapon it took 4 thin coats to achieve a solid base. Before we continue, let's quickly talk about glazing. Glazing means applying very thin transparent layers of paint over an existing color. Each layer slightly changes the hue or brightness underneath, and by building up several layers we can create a smooth transition. Thin the paint with water until it reaches the consistency shown here. However, the brush will absorb a lot of the mixture and applying it directly can cause pooling. Add a few drops of water to a paper towel and gently dab the brush against it. The towel removes the excess moisture, while enough pigment remains in the brush for a controlled glaze. You can test this on your thumb before applying it to the model. Well, before we can start glazing, we have to decide where to put the highlights and where to put the shades. My rule of thumb for power weapons is to place the bright areas diagonally opposite each other, one at the top right and one at the bottom left. The shaded areas follow the reverse pattern. Now apply a thin glaze of Temple God Blue. Start slightly before the area you want to brighten and pull the brush toward the outer edge. Most of the pigment is deposited at the end of the brush stroke. Let each layer dry before applying the next one. Repeat the process several times, making each new layer slightly smaller to gradually build a smooth transition. I used around 4 layers here. Now repeat the same process with staggered on scale green on the opposite sections, pulling the pigment toward the shaded edges. Once the gradients are complete, highlight the edges with Temple God Blue. Use the side of the brush rather than the tip for cleaner and more consistent lines. Follow this with a smaller highlight using a 50-50 mix of Temple God Blue and matte white. Finally, apply pure matte white only on the sharpest corners and brightest points of the blade. And since I felt that the highlight looked a bit too sharp, I corrected it with a longer highlight of our Temple God Blue and matte white mix. Always remember that you can correct anything. I hope you enjoyed this little guide and that it helped you progress on your hobby journey.